Welcome to the Zono Sports Show, where you know Zonos. Now, Christmas time was here, came and went, and of course, Chef Curry and KD didn't have a Merry Christmas. They're hoping for a Happy New Year in Golden State. Golden State loses 109-108 to LeBron in Cleveland. Now, Kevin Durant had 36, Chef Curry had 15. We need to see a little bit more from Chef. However, this pot seems to not be able to stay hot when the game's on the line, when those moments matter most. Chef Curry disappeared in the finals, and he disappears especially when they play Cleveland. And KD, he's always had issues at the buzzer when it comes down to it, and taking ill-advised shots that don't go in. Now, yes, he did get tripped. Maybe a foul on Richard Jefferson. The NBA came out and said it was in fact a foul, but that's one of those street ball maybe errors. Is that an and one? Is that check ball up? We don't know. But we do know that the Warriors, even with this addition of KD, are they really that much better than the Cleveland Cavaliers? Because I must say, the magic hasn't been there for these two when it matters most. Chef Curry and Kevin Durant have got to learn and got to find it somewhere within their superstar selves, the ability to close out games, make the plays that matter. Chef, stop getting so loose with the ball, man, and the behind-the-back passes when you're playing against teams that are of this caliber. When you have a Kevin Love, when you have a Kyrie Irving and a LeBron James, you can't do the loosey-goosey ball plays with this type of team. Now, Kyrie, I will say that this guy, he relieves a lot of the pressure weighing down on LeBron's gargantuous shoulders. Now, the reason I say that LeBron always had issues in Miami and even his old Cleveland days with taking that last shot. He would defer to Dwayne Wade, defer to Chris Bosh. But now, LeBron, the fact that he has a young guy, Kyrie Irving, who likes that shine, likes that showmanship, and can embrace that moment, wants to take that big shot, I think this is the best thing that's ever happened to LeBron in his career. You got Kyrie, who's got the wet ball, but also likes those clutch moments, which LeBron can say, you know, that's Kyrie. We let him do his thing. I do my thing. But in those late game situations, he's somebody we know we can count on. That's all he's got to say, because LeBron, he really doesn't want to take free throws late in the game, and he doesn't want to shoot that last shot, the dreaded last shot. I think that he's so caught up in nostalgia from watching MJ highlights against Craig Elo from Cleveland and watching Kobe highlights against Phoenix at the buzzer. I think that LeBron doesn't want to face not being able to create those highlights, so it's better to just create his own by the slam dunks and the block, chase downs. That's his staple, which is okay, but I think Kyrie being able to be that last second guru, per se, I think that's really helped out LeBron. Now, by the way, listen here, Santa. Against the Pistons, the very next night, LeBron sat and the Cavaliers went flat. Now, of course, he rested against the Pistons, and they did lose last night. But I like this Cavaliers team a lot more than I may have at the beginning of the year, because I'm a believer, and they show that they can put it all together against Golden State, even with a missing J.R. Smith. So kudos to the Cavs. Now, the Celtics beat the Knicks. Spurs beat the Bulls on Christmas. But shout out to L.A. for beating L.A. Now, let's go back to Cali. Now, on Sunday on Christmas, the Lakers beat the injured Clippers. Maybe Steve Ballmer will put some coal in Doc Rivers' stocking for next year. But I must say that the Clippers, as of late, have faltered a little bit, and we can say there's people that are injured. Chris Paul's hurt. He's talking to State Farm people about the coverage for his injuries. And you got Blake Griffin. He's hurt. So when you have DeAndre Jordan as the featured player in your offense, it's going to be trouble, because he just is not that explosive offensive player who can really dominate and take over a game. Defensively, yes, he can, but he doesn't have the offensive repertoire as a Karl Anthony Towns, as a Joel Embiid, even as a Julius Randle. I'd say Julius Randle's got more offensive game than DeAndre Jordan. That's just the honest truth. Is he a better player? No, but for what the Clippers need and what they're trying to do, Jamal Crawford, he's great, but he's no Chris Paul. And, I mean, I really just think the Clippers need to sit down, go back to the drawing board, and figure out what they can do to get back near the top of the West. because teams like the Rockets and Golden State and the Spurs the Spurs, they're heads above heels above these Clippers right now as we speak. Now it's still early; it's December, but we're coming up on All-Star Weekend here in about a month, and it's not looking too bright and hopeful for the Clippers. Now, also, a Happy New Year's almost most NFL teams want. Now, if you're the Browns, you just want a victory. Now, I wonder who asked Santa for a Super Bowl. You tell me. You tell me. Now, Tom Brady in New England basically put a bow in the AFC East. That division's wrapped up, but Miami caught an AFC wildcard spot. Matt Moore, he's not as good as people think. I think he's good enough to play, but is he good enough to win this game, win playoff games, and lead this team to exponential victory? I don't think so. Jay Ajayi, great running back. He's running for 200 a clip every other week, but the Dolphins, they won't. They're first rounders in the playoffs. but for sure they'll have some Calipari swag, one and done. But good season for the Dolphins. Sorry about Ryan Tannehill getting hurt. Houston stole the AFC South. Why? Jacksonville stinks. Mariota got hurt, broke his leg this weekend, and Andrew's out of luck. He's been out of luck for the last couple seasons. So I think the Colts need to maybe look at making a change with Mr. Chuck Pagano. I know the Chuck Strong was a big deal for them, but that's over. We look at a football perspective. He's not getting the job done. I think he's a great coach, great guy, but for that organization, you got to make a change in Indianapolis. Time is ticking because Andrew Luck is getting older every day that we speak. Now, moving right along, Pittsburgh deserves the AFC North. They did what they had to do. They won the division. They've got Ben Roethlisberger playing great, Antonio Brown playing great, as well as Le'Veon Bell playing great. Now, Mike's our man. Terry Bradshaw came out, major shade this weekend, calling Mike Tomlin not a great coach, but a great cheerleader guy. Now, I think there's a slight undertone there that we could mention, but I'll just say this. Terry Bradshaw, you're wrong. I know you played back in those old days with Chuck Noll and things like that. That's fine. But Mike Tomlin's been to 2 Super Bowls, and he's won 1. And he's won it with a lot of the guys that they've had on this roster for quite some time. He coached Troy Polamalu and all those guys just as long as Bill Cowher did. So I don't think that we can sit here and say that he's not a great coach. Out of the 9 seasons he's been there, I think that he's missed three seasons he's missed the playoffs. So let's not sit here and say that he's not a great coach when in fact the numbers prove otherwise. So Terry, think before you speak, sir. Don't make it about preference, okay? Now Kansas City, they got another wild card spot. Now the reason that is because the NFC West was won by Oakland, but at a steep price. Derek Carr breaks his fibula on Sunday. No Derek Carr, that takes the premium gas out of this Beamer. Now, the reason I say that, this defense is great. Oakland's defense with Khalil Mack, and you've got Sean Smith there, and you've got Carl Joseph. You've got a lot of people on that defense who can ball. However, I don't think Matt McGloin's a guy who can take you to a Super Bowl. The Penn State guy, the red-haired guy, I don't know if he can do that. But he's a good quarterback, understands the system. We'll have to see what happens. But I don't think he's the guy that can take the Oakland Raiders over the top just because Derek Carr means so much. DC, you can't have the AC without the DC. And so I don't know about Oakland, but they've had a great season, giving these fans in the Black Hole something to cheer about. They've been hearing about their team possibly getting sold all year, so this is good for that team and organization. NFC South, owned by Atlanta, Daddy, he didn't have it this year, and Jameis was almost famous. He'll get there, but he's just not there yet. Seattle, they got out of their traffic stop with an easier road in the NFC West, with the Niners not being great and the Rams not being great. That made it a lot more maneuverable simply because they did have the tie midseason with Arizona, I want to say. And this division, just with it being so weak and them having the record that they have, they're lucky to be in the playoffs. So I think that benefited them this year, playing in that weak division, which they typically do own. Now also, the NFC East and the conference runs through Dak and Dallas. Now, they beat Detroit last night decisively. It was a great game to watch, 42-21. However, late in the game, they're wondering, are they going to put Tony Romo in after they sit down Dak? But Everybody knows you don't put a Pro Bowler, a guy who's been there, you don't put him in the game in garbage time, especially when he's done as much as Tony Romo's evidently done for that franchise, even though he hasn't won anything. But Tony Romo will never get those garbage time minutes. So I definitely think he should get some reps next week so he can get himself to the flow. In case something does happen to Dak in the playoffs, you don't toss Romo into a playoff situation. That's a lot of pressure with a guy who hasn't played for most of the season, really the whole season. Now, the Giants, they flopped against the Eagles, and they slide into that other wild card spot. I see Ben McAdoo's a good coach. He's shown he's a good coach. But I don't think the Giants are the team that can really make that run in the playoffs just because I just don't think they have enough sauce in the tank to make that type of jump or impact in the NFC playoffs with teams like Dallas and Seattle. I just don't think they can compete. Even Green Bay. Yeah, I know the Giants are a great team, and they've got great receivers with Shepard and Odell, and they've got Cruz that's playing okay, but I don't think they can really make any waves. Now, the NFC North, classic de facto playoff game. Both Green Bay and Detroit, they've seen the old NFL themes, the Herman Moores, the Barry Sanders, the Brett Favres, the Antonio Freemans. They know about this rivalry. They know about what this game means in the division, and it means a lot this year because Detroit, they made the seatbelt extra tight in their Ford SUV, losing to Dallas last night. So we'll have to see what happens with this particular game because this determines that wild card spot, which is already wrapped up by either of these two teams. Washington cost himself, but Aaron Rodgers isn't who you want to see in Week 17, Detroit. Keep that in mind. He is not the man that you want to have knocking on your door. The bye-bye man. That movie's coming out, but this guy, Aaron Rodgers, he may be the bye-bye man way long before the movie even makes it to theaters because he may send the Detroit Lions home packing. Now, tune in Thursday. We got some college football playoff breakdown for you. Alabama and Washington. Clemson, Ohio State. I mentioned it before, but did I break it down? No, sir. So we'll break it down next time on Zono Sports, where Zoe knows.